On the map, this house didn't stand out in any particular way. An old two-story mansion, built in the 1920s on a forgotten road in Tennessee, amidst overgrown forests and hills. The house, like hundreds of others in the area, had long stood empty, and only occasional travelers spoke of strange glimmers of light in the windows, though there had been no electricity there for a long time. Local teenagers would give each other silly dares. Go into the house and you'll get $20. Most didn't even dare to step onto the porch. They knew the legend. According to police archives, in 1974, a man named Clarence Reed, a quiet, reclusive farmer, lived in this house. His neighbors rarely saw him, but no one knew that Clarence kept captives in the attic of the mansion. Girls he abducted from the outskirts of Nashville. When the police stormed the house, they found traces of blood on the floor, but no bodies were ever discovered. Clarence himself vanished, as if dissolved into thin air. Since then, the mansion was dubbed the House on Devil's Creek Road. In 2003, a new family moved in, John and Mary Caldwell with their 2 children. They bought the house for a ridiculously low price, convinced that all the rumors were nothing more than fabrications. The first few weeks were quiet, but very soon they were haunted by smells, sounds, and nightmares. Mary claimed to hear women's screams behind the walls at night. The children complained about a figure in the corner of their room, a tall shadow with empty eye sockets. When John tried to check the basement, the door was boarded up. He removed the planks, and the first thing he smelled was the stench of decay and iron. The basement was filled with old cages, chains, and stains on the walls that no paint could hide. But the strangest thing was yet to come. Words appeared on the walls, scratched with fingernails. The same thing over and over again. "Let me out." The police came to the scene again, but the reports were classified. Official documents stated that no evidence of crimes was found. However, the family left a month later, abandoning all their belongings. The house became empty again, but it was from this moment that new disappearances began. In 2015, student journalists from Knoxville decided to make a documentary about the house. The camera recorded everything. Strange sounds, footsteps, cold drafts. The footage, later published online, shows one of the students walking down the second-floor corridor. The camera jolts, and a female figure with a torn mouth flashes in the lens. The next day, 2 of the group disappeared without a trace. Only one girl returned and refused to say a word. Her eyes were empty, and doctors diagnosed her with a psychological trauma incompatible with a normal life. But the most chilling testimonies appeared very recently. In February 2022, local teenagers broke into the house and started a live broadcast on TikTok. In the first few minutes, it looked like a typical foolish prank. But at the 17-minute mark of the broadcast, one of the viewers wrote in the comments, "There's someone standing behind you." The guys turned around. The camera captured a tall figure in the doorway. Its face was impossible to make out, but a hoarse female scream, as if hundreds of voices were screaming at once, cut through their ears. The broadcast cut off. The teenagers' bodies were never found. Local authorities did everything to suppress the story. But fragments of police reports, audio recordings of 911 calls, and even photographs of the basement remained in the archives. And all of it points to one thing. The house on Devil's Creek Road continues to live a life of its own. People say that footsteps are heard in the basement, though it is empty. that faces of those who disappeared within the walls of this house appear in the windows. And if you listen closely at night, you can hear the words that Clarence Reed's victims once left. "Let me out. Let me out." They say that every cursed place not only preserves traces of the past, but also lives a life of its own. The house on Devil's Creek Road is exactly like that. It is not just a ruin on the edge of the forest. It is a living entity, feeding on the fear and lives of those who dare to cross its threshold. The story began with a name still whispered: Clarence Reed. Born in 1932 into a poor farming family, he grew up a quiet boy who rarely socialized. His father was a cruel man, his mother silent and repressed. Neighbors recalled that little Clarence loved to sit by the river for hours, drawing strange symbols in the sand. No one knew then that this boy would become one of the most terrifying figures in Tennessee's history. In the 1970s, girls began to disappear on the highway near Nashville. Mostly they were hitchhikers and young women returning home late at night. Police searched for a serial killer, but there was too little evidence. Everything changed in 1974 when an anonymous call came into the station. A man uttered only one phrase: "Check the house on Devil's Creek Road." When officers arrived, they found boarded-up windows and doors. Inside it smelled musty, but there were fresh tracks on the floor. They went down to the basement, and it was there that they first saw the cages and chains and bloodstains. But Clarence Reed himself was gone. No one ever found out where he disappeared. Some believed he committed suicide. Others believed he was taken by the very darkness he worshipped. From that moment, the house stood empty. But it was empty only on the outside. Fragment of a police report, 1974. Metal structures resembling cages were found in the basement. On the walls, then, nail marks and scratched inscriptions. Biological analysis confirmed the presence of human blood. The bodies of the victims were not found. Suspect Clarence Reed disappeared. Case closed due to lack of further evidence. In 2003, the Caldwell family bought the house. For John, it was an opportunity to start over. He had lost his job and was looking for cheap housing for his family. When they first went inside, the children immediately sensed something was wrong. "Dad, it smells like iron in here," said 10-year-old Susan. "It's just old rust, honey," John replied, trying to hide his apprehension. But within a few days, Mary confessed to her husband that she heard voices at night. It was as if someone was whispering directly into her ear. "Don't leave me here. Please." One day, John woke up to find their son, Brian, standing by the bed, staring directly at him. "She said we have to leave," the boy uttered. "Who is she?" John asked. "The woman with the torn face?" The next morning, John decided to open the basement. He expected to see dirt and debris. But what he found surpassed all nightmares. The cages were still in place. The metal was covered in rust, but chains remained on the floor, and on the walls, new words, written very recently: "Still here." Another call came into the police, but this time, officers quickly searched the house and found nothing suspicious. In their report, they wrote, "No signs of violence found." However, one of the police officers later admitted to a colleague, "I heard footsteps in the basement, but no one was there. And I can't get the smell out of my head. It wasn't just the smell of decay. It was the smell of death." A month later, the Caldwell family left, abandoning their entire home. They never returned to the subject again. Newspaper clipping, Knoxville Gazette, 2003. The Caldwell family left the mansion on Devil's Creek Road after living there for only a month. They declined to comment on the reason for their relocation. Local residents are convinced that the house has once again manifested its curse. Over the years, the story of the house became a legend. But legends sometimes come alive. In 2015, a group of students decided to make a documentary about it. Cameras recorded every step. They laughed, joked, but by night, the atmosphere became unbearable. In the recording, one of the girls is heard saying, "I swear, someone is standing in the corner." The camera turns, and for a second, a female figure is indeed visible. Her face is torn from ear to ear, and her eyes are full of darkness. The students screamed. The recording cut off. 2 of them were never found. The surviving girl was admitted to a psychiatric clinic. She repeated only one phrase: "They are still here." They never left. Diary fragment, found in the Knoxville Library. Author unknown. I grew up near Devil's Creek Road. When we were kids, we always heard stories about Clarence Reed. They said he didn't just kill girls, but sacrifice them to some darkness. Old folks claimed that at night he would go out to the river and whisper words in an unknown language. After that, screams were always heard in the house. But the scariest thing was that some screams were heard even after the police had already taken away all the residents. In 2018, a local journalist named Eric Sloan decided to conduct his own investigation. He gathered all the archives, protocols, and articles he could find. Eric believed that all these stories were just ordinary human fear and an urban legend. But he soon realized he was wrong. Recording from Eric Sloan's podcast, 2018. I entered the house during the day. Light streamed through the broken windows. Inside it was quiet. But when I went down to the basement, I heard a sound like breathing. I was sure I was alone, but a figure loomed in the corner. I turned on my flashlight, and no one was there. However, the camera captured something else. The recording clearly shows a woman's face behind me, but I swear no one was there. A month later, Eric disappeared. His car was found by the roadside 5 miles from Devil's Creek Road. Inside were his bag, laptop, and voice recorder, the last recording. They're whispering. They know I'm here. If I don't come back, the house took me. Newspaper article, Knoxville Gazette, March 2018. Journalist Eric Sloan reported missing. He was investigating the so-called house on Devil's Creek Road. Police state that no signs of violence have been found. However, many residents are convinced the house has claimed another victim. In 2020, a group of ghost hunters from a YouTube channel decided to conduct a live broadcast in the house. Millions of viewers tuned in, expecting typical jump scares and cheap tricks. But everything turned out to be far scarier. At the 45-minute mark of the stream, a silhouette of a man in old-fashioned clothing appeared in the frame. His face was distorted, his eyes empty, as if burned out. He stood in the corridor and did not move. One of the broadcast participants screamed, "Clarence? It's Clarence Reed." Seconds later, the broadcast cut off. The next day, the channel was deleted, and the bloggers themselves stopped communicating. 911 call recording, February 14th, 2020. 911, what's your emergency? I live across the forest from Devil's Creek Road. I see lights in the windows. That house is abandoned, but there's a light on now. And I hear screams. God, it's women's screams again. Officers will be on site within 10 minutes. Connection breaks. No repeat call from the subscriber recorded. With each passing year, the list of disappearances grew. Teenagers, adventurers, thrill seekers, all shared one common thread. They were last seen near the house on Devil's Creek Road. Local authorities tried to suppress the truth, but documentary fragments continued to surface online. Anonymous Reddit users posted photos from Eric Sloane's phone found on the black market. The pictures showed the basement, cages, bloodstains. But the most terrifying thing was one photo showing a group of masked people standing in a circle. Unpublished police report. Source: Forshawn Leak, 2021. Traces of candles, animal remains, and human hair were found in the basement. It is presumed that occult rituals are still being conducted in the house. It is possible that a cult of Clarence Reed's followers still exists today. Today, the house stands empty. Its windows are boarded up, its entrance is sealed. But if you are near it at night, you can see a faint light. And sometimes, hear a knocking on the walls. Those who have heard it claim, these are not ghosts. These are living voices, still begging, "Let me out. Let me out." When Eric Sloane's case became public, independent researchers became involved in the house's story. Some called it American Aokigahara, a suicide forest, only in the form of an old mansion. But the difference was that here, death never seemed voluntary. In late 2021, a group of paranormal researchers from Chicago, the Night Seekers, announced that they would spend a night in the house and film a documentary. They were confident they could prove that the legends were just a myth. The video begins like a typical ghost hunt. Laughter, sarcasm, night vision cameras. But after 2 hours of recording, the atmosphere changes. In the video, one of the participants is heard saying, "I swear, I just saw a woman on the stairs." The camera turns, and for a second, a figure is seen standing at the top. Her face is white, her eyes empty, her mouth disfigured in a horrific grimace. Then a sound like dozens of people simultaneously hitting the walls is heard throughout the house. The participants begin to panic. One of them screams, "They're here. They're everywhere." The video cuts off. Only the first 40 minutes of the footage were uploaded to YouTube. Everything else disappeared along with the authors. The search party found their car on the side of the road, a mile from the house. Inside, equipment and belongings. The participants themselves were gone. Internal police report, December 2021. Cameras with partially deleted recordings were found in the car. One of the saved files shows the face of a man, presumably Clarence Reed, but his age does not match. The image is blurry, but it is visible that the figure is standing behind the expedition participants. The filming was done with an infrared camera. The bodies of the missing persons have not been found. In early 2022, a post appeared on Reddit from a user with the nickname u/LastWitness77. He claimed to be the grandson of one of Clarence Reed's first victims. His grandmother disappeared in 1973. 6 months after her disappearance, the family received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a piece of blood-stained cloth and a photograph. It showed the house's basement, cages, and a girl pressed against the wall. u/LastWitness77 wrote, "I found old records in the police archive. They were never published. The photo shows that not only Clarence participated in the rituals, there were other people, men in masks, standing in a circle. I think the cult still exists. The house is not just cursed. It is a place of worship. Victims are needed to feed what lives inside." The post gathered thousands of comments, but was deleted 2 days later. The account itself disappeared. Some users claimed they managed to download the photos. They indeed showed people in masks with their hands raised to the basement ceiling. Local newspaper article, July 2022. Another tragedy on Devil's Creek Road. 3 teenagers reported missing. Their last TikTok post captured a strange female face in the second-floor window. Authorities once again dismissed the incident as a childish prank. But residents claim the house demands new victims every few years, and authorities have long known this. Meanwhile, rumors about the house spread across America. Eyewitness accounts began appearing on forums. One man wrote that in the 1990s, he worked as a postman and delivered letters to this house several times, although it was considered abandoned. Each time, the envelopes had no return address, but were always signed the same way. For him. Another witness claimed that his father, a former police officer, was among the first to enter the house in 1974. Before he died, he confessed, "We found bodies. We found everyone. But we were ordered to keep silent because what we saw could not be explained." In late 2022, a new wave of fear was triggered by a YouTube channel that published leaks from surveillance cameras allegedly installed near the house. One video shows a figure slowly emerging from the forest, approaching the house and dissolving into thin air. Another shows a light in the second-floor window and the silhouette of a woman standing and looking directly into the camera. The account didn't last long. 3 weeks later, the channel was deleted, and its author wrote a final message on Twitter. "I get it. It's not a house, it's a gateway. Everything we see is just the beginning. Today the house is officially abandoned, but people continue to hear screams and see lights in its windows. Some claim that if you stop near it at night and turn off your car, you can hear footsteps right behind you. And the most terrifying thing, a quiet whisper that calls your name." A truck driver who passed by there in December 2023 recounted in an interview, "I saw a woman on the roadside. She was waving, asking me to stop. But when I slowed down, her face turned into a black void. She just dissolved into thin air. And then I heard a voice from the forest. Let me out. I got out of there as fast as I could. I'll never go back on that road." In early 2023, a strange archive appeared on the internet. A folder named Rituals_DC, uploaded to one of the darknet forums. It contained dozens of photos and several video recordings. The source claimed that the materials were stolen from the Knoxville Police Department. The first frames show the house's basement, lit by candles. In the center of a circle stand people in masks, resembling carved human faces. They hold candles in their hands, and a bound girl lies on the floor. She is alive. The next moment, the camera abruptly cuts off. Screenshot of the video description. Ritual 11. Sacrifice for him. Blood must feed the walls. Some users claimed they heard Clarence Reed's voice on the recording. But how is that possible decades later? Article in an independent blog, March 2023. Who is behind the house on Devil's Creek Road? We have collected all testimonies and concluded this is not about ghosts and not about a simple murderer. The house has become a place of worship for a secretive cult. These people were active back in the 70s and, it seems, continue their rites to this day. The only question is, whom or what are they feeding with blood? In June 2023, a 19-year-old student named Emily Hudson disappeared in Tennessee. The last recording from her phone was found in the cloud. She had turned on her camera to film the abandoned house at night. In the recording, her breathing and nervous laughter can be heard. "Okay, guys, I'm inside. This is so creepy. I think I hear something in the basement." Then, a loud thud is heard. The camera falls to the floor but continues to record. For a few seconds, only darkness and rustling. Then someone's bare leg, with chains on its ankles, comes into frame. The camera cuts off. Emily was never found. Anonymous call to the hotline, July 2023. Are you looking for Emily Hudson? She's in the house, but you won't find her, because she's part of the walls now. With each passing month, more hints appeared that the cult associated with the house still existed. Scratched symbols began to be found in the basements of neighboring buildings, a triangle surrounded by a circle, and inside, a human palm. The symbol was called Hand of Silence. One former police officer, who wished to remain anonymous, told a journalist, "We know about the cult. They haven't disappeared. Every time someone goes missing in the area, everything points to that house. But the authorities are silent. Why? Because some of them are part of that cult." Fragment of a letter found in the Nashville Library, 2023. Clarence Reed did not die. His body is a vessel. The house keeps him. And every time the walls are fed with new blood, he becomes stronger. We must continue. Otherwise, he will come for us. In August 2023, local blogger Jason Carter decided to conduct a live stream inside the house. His broadcast gathered over 200,000 viewers. For the first few minutes, he joked, showing viewers the old rooms and boarded-up windows. But then he went down to the basement. There, among the rusty cages, the camera captured something strange. Fresh blood appeared on the walls, as if the walls were breathing. Suddenly, the sound became distorted, and a voice off-camera said, "Stay with us, Jason." The stream abruptly cut off. The next day, viewers wrote in the comments that they heard a woman crying and children's voices, although Jason was alone. He himself was never seen again. Local press note, September 2023. Another disappearance is linked to the infamous house on Devil's Creek Road. Police refused to comment on the situation. However, footage from blogger Jason Carter's stream, showing the house's walls literally bleeding, is circulating on social media. Today, it is increasingly discussed online that the house has become something more than just a crime scene. It is an altar where the cult continues to make sacrifices. Every disappearance is not an accident. It is the price paid to prevent him from coming out. Some researchers claim that footsteps of a person long dead are heard in the house, and that in the mirrors of the second floor, one can see not only oneself, but also those who remained forever within the walls. In November 2023, independent journalist Sarah Miller, host of a podcast about unsolved cases, decided to dedicate a special episode to The House on Devil's Creek Road. She gathered dozens of interviews, archives, and testimonies that local authorities had tried to hide for years. Podcast fragment, Forgotten Crimes, episode number 42. I met with a former officer from the Knoxville department. I changed his voice at the source's request. He said, "We found more bodies than stated in the official reports. Women, teenagers. Some were so disfigured they were impossible to identify. We were ordered to destroy the evidence. They said the world shouldn't know. But the strangest thing was, some of the bodies seemed to have fused with the basement walls. We didn't understand how that was possible. After this episode aired, Sarah Miller began to receive anonymous threats. A note appeared in her mailbox. "Silence keeps you safe. Break it, and the house will find you." A week later, her car was found on a deserted road near her home. Sarah herself had disappeared. Note: Knoxville Tribune, December 2023. Journalist Sarah Miller is missing. She was last seen near Devil's Creek Road. Police refused to link her disappearance to a local legend. However, listeners of her podcast are convinced the house has claimed another victim. Parallel to these events, new leaks began to appear on the dark net. Anonymous users posted scans of classified documents. One of them, dated 1987, stated, "Excerpt from a classified report. Project DCR is closed due to excessive risk. The object exhibits signs of autonomous activity, anomalous sound phenomena, visual manifestations, impossibility of complete disinfection of blood traces. It is suspected that the building structure is a receptacle for an otherworldly entity. Isolation and destruction of the object are recommended. However, destruction is deemed impossible due to the constant reproduction of wall material." In January 2024, a group of activists tried to burn down the house. They doused the walls with gasoline and set them on fire. Witnesses claimed that the house burst into flames and the fire rose above the trees. But 2 hours later, firefighters reported the building remained intact. One of the firefighters unofficially told reporters the fire seemed to go inside. As if the walls absorbed it, I heard screams. But there was no one inside the house. Meanwhile, a new series of photographs appeared online. They were night shots from inside the house. The camera captured a hallway. Suddenly, a group of people in hoods appeared in the frame. They stood in a circle and repeated the words, "Blood for him. Silence for us." The next photo showed no people, only an empty hallway and dark traces on the floor. Excerpt from an anonymous letter to the American Horrors blog editor. "You think the cult is gone? You're wrong. It's everywhere. They don't hide in the house. They use it as a gateway. Each ritual makes the walls stronger, and each disappearance is part of the deal." Clarence Reed was just the beginning. Now they are hundreds. If you continue to seek the truth, the walls will absorb you, too. In the spring of 2024, a short video went viral on TikTok. It showed teenagers laughing and entering the house. The camera filmed for only a few seconds, then suddenly began to shake. In the last frame, a tall man in an old-fashioned suit was visible behind them. His face was impossible to discern, but viewers noted that he strongly resembled photographs of Clarence Reed from the 1970s. The video garnered millions of views, but the author's account was deleted within 24 hours. Today, authorities continue to deny any connection between the disappearances and the house. But the more documents leak online, the more obvious it becomes. Someone is deliberately concealing the truth. The house is not just an empty shell. It is a tool of a cult that has existed for decades, possibly since the 1920s. Some researchers claim that the rituals performed inside are linked to ancient practices brought by settlers from Europe. The Hand of Silence symbol has even been found in old Appalachian churches. Anonymous call recording to a local radio station, June 2024. You want to know the truth? The house is alive. It breathes. I was inside. The walls move, and I heard them call my name. You think it's all legends? Try spending a night there. Then you'll understand that you won't leave there alive. In late 2024, a series of photos surfaced on the darknet, labeled DC Relic. They depicted an object resembling an old book covered in caked blood. The Hand of Silence symbol was drawn on the first page. The caption read, "Taken from the basement. We should not have touched it." Soon, rumors spread that the book was Clarence Reed's diary. It allegedly described the rituals performed in the house. One of the scans contained the line, "Walls feed on blood. Each scream is a stone. Each body, another brick." A week later, the author of the publication disappeared. Article, The Knoxville Herald, January 2025. A group of paranormal researchers announced that they had removed an artifact from the house. According to them, it was a book linked to Clarence Reed himself. However, 2 days later, they stopped responding. Their car was found near the forest. Inside were traces of blood, and on the back seat, scratched words, "Put it back." Excerpt from an FBI report leaked online, February 2025. Artifact codename DCR-01 seized. Object exhibits signs of anomalous activity, emission of blood-like fluid, movement of symbols on pages, vocal phenomena. Object isolated. Not recommended for storage near living beings. Possible link to missing persons. Meanwhile, a new YouTube channel appeared, claiming to have recordings from the house. The first video showed a hallway, filmed with an infrared camera. A human hand appeared from the wall for a few seconds. The video garnered 1.2 million views in 2 days. On the third night, the channel was deleted. Users wrote that before deletion, a message appeared on the screen. "The house is watching you." 911 call recording, March 2025. "Please, you have to come. The lights are on in the house again. I saw people in the basement. They were standing in a circle. And then one of them just disappeared. He walked into the wall as if it were water. Officers are en route. Please stay on the line." Call disconnected. In April 2025, a group of anthropology students from the University of Tennessee went to the house to research folklore. They claimed they had no intention of going inside, only gathering interviews from locals. But 3 days later, all 5 disappeared. Their cameras were found in the nearby forest. One recording captured a girl screaming, "He's coming! Don't look him in the eyes." Then the camera showed the silhouette of a man in an old suit, slowly approaching from the darkness. The screen went black. Excerpt from a letter found in one of the students' personal belongings. "We thought we were researching a myth, but this myth is researching us. The house calls to us, and I'm afraid that when we enter, it won't let us go." Today, in the summer of 2025, rumors about the house have reached a new level. An anonymous warning is circulating on social media. In September, it will all begin. They are preparing a big ritual. If you hear Clarence Reed's name at night, run. The house will soon open completely. Some consider this a prank, but others are convinced. The cult is preparing for an event that will turn Devil's Creek Road into a point of no return. In the summer of 2025, a group of independent journalists and bloggers formed, deciding to combine their efforts. They called their project The Last Witness. It included podcasters, YouTubers, and even former police officers who were tired of keeping silent. Their goal was simple: to gather all the evidence and bring the house's story to national media. In their first YouTube episode, they presented footage that no one had ever seen before. Among them was a snippet of footage from Eric Sloan's camera, found through private archives. The video showed Eric walking down the house's hallway. His face was tense. Suddenly, he stopped sharply, raised his flashlight, and the light picked out a woman's face embedded in the wall. The eyes of this face moved. It whispered, "Stay." A second later, the recording cut off. The video caused an explosion online. Millions of views, dozens of articles. But along with this came threats. Strange messages began to appear in the video's comments. "Silence is safety. He is watching you. Put it back." Excerpt from a conversation between the Last Witness Project participants, July 2025. "We need to post everything. The more people know, the less chance they'll have to hide it. You don't understand. They're already watching us. One of us disappeared yesterday." "Who?" "Matthew. He didn't come home. The walls in his apartment were wet." The second episode of the project was even scarier. They published an audio file from an FBI leak. It could be heard agents discussing Object DCR-01, Clarence Reed's book. At some point, a voice was heard in the background that none of the agents had uttered. "Blood builds me. You build me." The file abruptly cut off, leaving only heavy breathing at the end. Article in the New York Chronicle, August 2025. The online project, The Last Witness, claims that the house on Devil's Creek Road is linked to an occult cult operating for decades. They are publishing archives and evidence previously believed to be destroyed. However, 2 members of the group have already gone missing. Police refuse to comment. In the third episode of The Last Witness, the journalists decided to go further. They went to the house and installed cameras outside. Nothing happened for the first 24 hours. But on the second day, the cameras recorded a group of people in black hooded robes entering the house at 3 in the morning. One of the cameras captured the moment the house door opened by itself. A bright light burst from within, and the walls seemed to move. The hooded figures entered, and the door closed. A few minutes later, a distorted image appeared on the camera. A man's figure was visible in the second-floor window. His face was impossible to discern, but viewers noticed that for a moment, the image matched known photographs of Clarence Reed. Excerpt from journalist Catherine Moore's notes, August 2025. "We thought we were watching them, but in reality, they are watching us. This morning, I found a hand symbol drawn on my door. I'm sure it's a warning. We're too close." A week later, Catherine disappeared. In the fourth episode, only 3 participants remained. They confessed to viewers, "We knew we were taking a risk, but now we understand. The house itself chooses who to take. We don't know how much time we have left. We will continue to publish materials as long as we can." It was in this episode that they showed a discovery that shocked even skeptics. It was a short video clip filmed with a VHS camera in the 1980s. The recording showed the house's basement, a cage, and a girl inside. Suddenly, her body began to convulse violently. She screamed. But the most terrifying thing was that her skin seemed to dissolve, merging with the wall. A few seconds later, the cage was empty. Viewers wrote in the comments, "I can't unsee this. This is proof. The walls absorb them. We're all in danger." In September 2025, strange messages began to appear on closed forums. Users, hiding behind pseudonyms, wrote about the cult associated with the house preparing for a great return. The messages were accompanied by hand of silence symbols and dates. October 21st, 2025. Excerpt from an anonymous post found on a darknet forum. The gates will be opened. We have prepared the walls. We have found enough voices. He will walk among us again. Those who saw him before knew him as Clarence. But now, he is more than a man. Journalists from the remaining The Last Witness team decided to investigate what was happening around the house. They installed drones for night surveillance. The first few nights showed only an empty forest. But on September 1st, a drone recorded dozens of figures gathering near the house. They stood in silence, holding lit candles. The recording clearly showed one of the participants raising a hand. All others repeated the movement. And then a unified scream erupted. Not human, more like a roar. The drone lost signal, the camera shut off. Independent bloggers report. I was 3 miles from the house. I heard a hum, like a choir. The sound was so powerful that the ground shook. I felt sick, my nose started bleeding. I'll never go back there again. Meanwhile, a new leak appeared online. This time, audio, presumably recorded in the house's basement. The recording contained dozens of voices repeating, "Blood builds the gate. Silence feeds the walls. October will come." Then laughter was heard, hoarse, male. Some listeners claimed it was Clarence Reed's laughter. Excerpt from a found letter, dated 1929. We built it here, on this land, not by chance. The flow of blood was to feed the walls. We knew that one day the gates would open. We are only guardians, and he will come. This letter became proof that the house could have been created as an original altar, and Clarence Reed was merely one figure in a long chain of ritual guardians. In late August 2025, another group disappeared. This time, young researchers from Kentucky who decided to film a TikTok series about America's most terrifying house. Their last video lasted only 14 seconds. On it, they laughed and went inside. The camera fell to the floor, and the last frame showed a bloody handprint on the wall. Caption under the video, "He's here." 9/11 call recording, September 1st, 2025. I saw them. People in black robes. They're carrying something into the house. It looks like bags. God, I think they're bodies. Calm down, officers will be on site. No, you don't understand. The house opened. I saw light. It couldn't be electricity. It was coming from the wall itself. Connection interrupted, caller not found. Today, in September 2025, there are fewer and fewer doubts. The cult is preparing something big. The date, October 21st, appears in letters, posts, even on the walls of abandoned buildings in the district. Some Knoxville residents claim that at night they see processions of hooded figures walking towards Devil's Creek Road. They walk in silence and always carry candles in their hands. By early October 2025, an atmosphere of panic reigns around Devil's Creek Road. Local residents try to avoid driving on this road, and those who do risk it tell of strange processions at night. Message in a local newspaper, October 5th, 2025. County residents complain about nightly gatherings near the abandoned house. Witnesses claim to have seen dozens of hooded figures walking along the road with lit candles. Police refuse to comment on the situation. Excerpt from an anonymous report leaked online, presumably FBI. Object DCR is active. An increase in anomalous activity is recorded. Flashes of light, acoustic phenomena, numerous disappearances. Data has been received about an impending ritual on October 21st. Presumably, the cult intends to carry out a mass opening of the gates. Isolation of the area and use of force are recommended. However, the operation is complicated by the presence of high-ranking individuals possibly involved in the cult. At this time, the sole surviving member of the Last Witness Project uploads a new video. His face is gaunt, eyes red. He clearly hasn't slept for days. They are everywhere. The people you trust, in the police, in the government, they are part of this. We found recordings where they talk about a blood pact. The house is not just a place, it's a gate. And on October 21st, they will open it completely. If you hear me, don't go near that place. Because this time, it won't just take those inside. 3 days later, this person disappears. His channel is deleted and a single photo appears online. The basement wall of the house, on which words scratched with fingernails have emerged. I warned you. Excerpt from a diary found in the Knoxville Library Archive, dated 1930. We built it here on bones. We knew the wall would be alive. Clarence is not the first and not the last. Each guardian brings new sacrifices. When enough blood is spilled, the walls will open and he will return. Not all will live to see it, but those who do will become part of eternity. Call recording to a local radio station, October 12th. I saw them. They were rehearsing a ritual. They stood in the basement, holding chains and books. I heard them speak his name, Clarence. But the voice that answered them, it wasn't a human voice. It was too deep, as if coming from the wall itself. Connection interrupted. By mid-October, strange phenomena intensify. City residents report that their house windows begin to fog up from the inside and handprints appear on the glass. The Hand of Silence symbol appears on building walls and even on some people's bodies in their dreams. Article, Knoxville Gazette, October 15th. Local authorities announced plans to close the Devil's Creek Road area to civilians due to construction work. However, residents are convinced that this is an attempt to hide what is happening. One local said, "It's not construction, it's a cleanup. They're afraid someone will learn the truth." Secret note, leak, October 16th. DCR activity level in the last 24 hours has exceeded all indicators. Multiple sound phenomena, light flashes, and structural changes in the house have been recorded. It is believed that the cult is completing preparations for the main ritual. Warning: the object may be beyond human control. Now less than a week remains until the date specified in the cult's messages. October 21st, 2025. The internet is buzzing with rumors. Some believe that on this day, the house will consume new victims. Others are convinced that it's about something much larger, an event that will change the entire city and possibly the world. One thing is clear: the house on Devil's Creek Road is coming alive like never before. Its walls are already breathing, its windows are looking out, and what is hidden within is ready to emerge.